Hi, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming on to Venture with Grace today.
Hey Grace, thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
Awesome. I'm good. How's DICE, the conference?
Dice was it's amazing. It's always Dice is kind of one of my favorite events because it gets really kind of close feeling compared to some other bigger industry event. Right? Dice
Mhm.
is really for the industry people to get together, and more cozy environment. So a lot of random chat, in the hotel lobby till like 3 a.m. type of situation,
Mhm.
which is
Oh my God.
that's when you get the most of the out of people, right? Versus those kind of
Mhm.
back to back scheduled meetings. So yeah,
Um,
I love it.
Awesome. Wait, what are some like big gaming conference anyway? Or like what are the things that you are excited to going every year?
Yeah, I would say there's a few e- gaming specific events for like a B2B event, right?
Mhm.
2C events, there are more. A lot of events are kind of both 2B and 2C, but the big ones is, I think DICE is definitely one to kick off the year, usually Vegas. And then there's in March, there's a GDC, Game Developer Conference, that's in San Francisco. And that's kind of, I think GDC is probably the largest in globally, the game B2B conference. And used to be there, and then in summer, usually there used to be like E3, which is both consumer to to B, but that got
Mhm.
canceled since COVID. So you don't have any in summer. There's a then we shift to Asia. There's China Joy, which is more Asia for China Asia focus in
Mhm.
July. And there's a Gamescom with more Europe, but it's still global focus, in Germany, in Cologne. And at the
Mhm.
end of September, sorry, at end of August for game, and then in September there's a Tokyo Game Show again back
Oh
to
my
Asia,
God.
and that's kind of I would say that's the
Mhm.
ones that I usually go, and there's others, usually every major country with a significant game development industry like France, Korea, all have their own conferences.
I feel you. It's also I feel like the gaming industry conference are always sounds like super fun because this is around game. But
Yeah,
anyway, so
you'd think though, but I think definitely it's fun for the people who like it. I wouldn't complain.
yeah. Okay. So so basically to start the show, you are a partner at Galaxy Interactive and then like managing director of Galaxy Digital. So from my research, so Galaxy Digital is like a crypto and blockchain focused merchant bank and founded in 2018. And then in 2019, the co-founders of Galaxy Interactive, they founded Galaxy not Galaxy Interactive, but yeah, they founded like Galaxy Interactive with Galaxy Digital. And Galaxy Interactive is kind of having two major LPs. One is the Block One, I believe, like, and then the other one is uh Galaxy Digital. So I'm sorry, I'm like literally I'm confused about these two entities for a little bit. So I wonder, do you wanna give us a history of like what you guys are working on and all that stuff?
Yeah, I just firstly I do to put a disclaimer there. This is I joined here as an individual. So all I'm saying this just reflect my personal opinion.
Mhm, mhm,
I don't represent the fund at this
mhm,
chat. But I can definitely talk about the fund and the history. I would say Galaxy Interactive is just a multi LP fund, just like other
mhm,
VC fund that hosted on the Galaxy Digital asset management platform, right?
mhm,
So I wouldn't go into the detail of the LP composition, but we are a lot very like other VC fund that a multi LP fund. We have you know I would say more than 70 LPs in cross our three funds right now. Um, I think the fund started in 2008, around 2018, 2019, that with the focus that invest in the I would say the next generation of interactive entertainment companies, which I think we put into three categories. The content
mhm,
and and the social commerce, and then is the technology. So we have you know significant investment in all the three categories. So now we are operating our third fund right now, and across three funds we have more than $800 million AUM.
mhm,
Um, and I would say that's kind of the background. I joined the firm at the beginning of 2022, so now just crossed the 2-year mark.
Mm. So I wonder, so like because you were prior to this, you were working in M&A in the gaming industry. I wonder how does the gaming industry money flows?
Yep. I think there's a I would say the maybe talk about the fundamentals, or how talking about the actual revenue, right? How
Mhm,
that flow. Maybe talk about that first, and then talk about the on the capital market side. Um, so I would say from just you talk about just the pure gaming trend, the gaming from normal people sense, right? Video games,
mhm,
whatever mobile PC console. I think there's three main participants in the whole revenue flow, right? There's a
mhm,
studio, right? The
mhm,
developers who actually develop the content, and there's a publisher who are kind of put the content to the market. Through marketing and through and the live ops and the various way, and there are platforms who are the kind of gateway, right? The digital gateway
mhm,
to to those content. So the the so if you talk about platform, right, and for PC console, there's PlayStation, there's Xbox, there's Steam, there's, pure software, that they usually take a significant part of the revenue from the whole, when you spend like $100 in the game, they take a significant part of revenue, and then
mhm,
the money flow to the publisher, who will share the royalty with the developer, right? But this
mhm,
is uh, it gets very complicated, in the end, because a lot of times, the publisher and developer are the same, right?
mhm,
Because if publisher own the studio, then they are actually one entity, right? And there are other cases,
mhm,
even the platform and the publisher and the studio are the same. For example, PlayStation, right? They have their own studio, they have their own publisher, and they also own the PlayStation platform.
mhm,
So the whole, I would say the if you talk about the bigger size, in 2023, according to news, right, the whole spending on the gaming software, like the gaming content, are
mhm,
180 roughly 180 billion dollars. So it's very significant and
mhm,
larger than a lot of other entertainment, media, like music or even movies combined. But that's only the actual dollar spent on content. It doesn't
mhm,
including hardware, which is everyone's iPhone, and that's a
mhm,
kind of,
mhm,
you can cut the hardware, and there's other, the console is significant, and the third part that people usually ignore in those kind of number is the eyeball, the value of the engagement, right? And
mhm,
so meaning the advertisement monetization, right? Means a lot of
mhm,
games, you will see ads, or like esports, right? That part of things is not capturing the $180 billion number that I mentioned. So
mhm,
in general, it's very big. So that's why we're interested in the space, and it's probably another one of the major media or content entertainment industry that's growing significantly throughout the years. And if you talk about the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha,
mhm,
right? They don't watch TV or movie when they grow up. They play games. They live in Roblox. They meet the friends there. So we think the interactive entertainment gonna be an even more important part of the people's life, going forward.
Totally. I wonder, so you mentioned there's like three major players in the industry, right? The studio, which is a developer, and then the publisher, which is like also including like marketing and then putting content into the market. And then there's the platform, which is a digital gateway to a degree. So like I wonder when you're thinking about these three different areas, like combining your, you guys invest in content, you guys invest in social commerce, you guys invest in technology, how does that play out? Like, how much emphasis are you spending on each one compared to, how, like, who makes the most amount of money? Is that the studio? Is that the publisher? Or is that the platform? What are, I guess, like, how do you spend your energy on to studying each kind of category of things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the more you move to the platform side of things, the more it looks like a technology investment, right? So so it's more like fit into the more traditional Silicon Valley type of investment. It's basically definitely the power law works well there, and usually there are only a few dominant parties, right?
Mhm.
The winner take all. I wouldn't say winner take all, but it's a few winners take all type of a
Mhm.
situation, right? And then the more you move to the developer and the content, pure content side, then it's more like an actual content. That means you will have just like movie or music, you have a hit, right? It's very hit driven,
Mhm.
but again,
Mhm.
it's less like the technology company, the way
So
they
it's like
grow and the way.
more unpredictable kind of thing.
I wouldn't say predictable is the right word. I would say it's it, it- the the revenue that you get
Mhm.
are less recurring and less kind of in the traditional software sense, right?
Mm.
So there you can predict things, right? Even on the content side, for example, if you have IP, right,
Mhm.
you franchise, it's predictable, but again, it's still not as robust as you get from the platforms, because platform is a gateway, right? They charge 30%, or it's more like a gateway. It's the tax to the entire industry. So that's
Mhm.
I would say that's generally how it looks like for us. I would say we spend time in all the areas. It's all mainly depends on for different type of investments, we have
Mhm.
different strategy and the structure. I think the uh, um, I think the reason we think there you need a sector specific investor for, especially for this industry, is that you cannot apply the traditional VC way to
Mhm.
to all the investment you have, right? There are
Mhm.
certain type of investment more like a you can use the standard VC way to think about it, but there's
Mhm.
others you need to think about from a content production perspective. Then
Mhm.
you need to structure the deals in a very different way. But we do spend time on all of this. I personally, I spend probably more time on the content side. So and that was my kind of my background, because at the banking, along with my former colleagues, right? We probably sold more game studios and publishers than anyone other bankers in the world. That was a pretty good time, last couple of years. So yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm quite familiar with the space, and that's what I spend more time in. But from a fund perspective, we spend time in all of different spaces across the industry.
Can you use like an example of? I really like what you said about you can now apply traditional VC lens to um the content deals. So I wonder, like, can you give us an example of like something that you when you fund this particular company to how you see the value creation through the company to eventually invest in them.
Yeah, it's I, I I I I don't want to talk about that specific deal right now, because I think I, since I joined, right, I think a lot of deals I did still on the pretty stealth
Mhm. Yeah, we can talk
stage.
about or like
Yeah,
a in like a
yeah,
maybe like a big industry deal that maybe like we all know about or like something more like public.
yeah. Uh, again, I think talk about the Spexio is always challenging. Um, I I would say um you know if you look at be- from 2020 2022, right, and you look at the global M&A on the gaming side, right?
Mhm,
I don't have the exact number on my hand, but just by myself and my former a colleague together, we did around more than 10 billion of the game asset, and a lot of that are the companies at that time are mobile, and the reason at the reason those deals happens because mobile, the last decades opened up a big floodgate of a new players, right? So
mhm,
you basically convert before mobile, you have like what 300 million players in the world combining PC and the PlayStation and Xbox and all this combined. But after
Mhm.
mobile, you suddenly increase to like 3 billion. Right now you have a 3.5 billion. So that's a
Mhm.
big I would say breakthrough in the industry. The new platform opened make the game accessible to everyone, and during that period of time, there's a lot of great mobile company get created and invested and grow very fast. So you will see you see a lot of multi-billion dollar deals happen at that time, right? So that's I would say that's one of the industry dynamic you see because
Mhm.
in gaming the new platform always bring in significant part of the equity value, right, of the company you invest in. So
Mhm.
that's part of that. And the other side of things, is like a real money gaming. I'm not talking about gambling, right? We're talking about the skill game and some fantasy sports that we have a significant investment through our portfolio, and that's another way of when you think about it open this gaming concept to a lot of people who don't play the casual game, but they like the using the real money into the feel like more excited about the competition, like you betting using the real money, and that's also get legalized and across very multiple states in the United States. So that's another kind of the industry trend or things unlock a lot of value, right, from the in the gaming industry. So that's a few trends. I'm because I don't want to talk about it. It's hard for me to talk about specific deal right now.
Mhm.
There's a lot of compliance stuff I have to go through if I need to talk specific things. Yeah, but
Totally.
you can see that you can see the active maybe the biggest one. Uh, so the biggest deal happened in the gaming, last couple of years in the M&A side is, Activision, right? Got acquired by
Mhm.
Microsoft.
Mhm.
Um, but that's if you look at the Activision, that's a standard. It's a publisher studio, right? So they have their own
Mhm.
studio, and they are the publisher, and they own significant IP, right? Major one is Call of Duty. That when you say predictability, that again, Call of Duty, every generation of Call of Duty has sometimes doing better, sometimes doing not that good, but in the
Mhm.
end, that's a much more predictable revenue than most of other games, and that create
Mhm.
a huge amount of value, right? And that's why it become one of the most valuable game company in the world. So the marketing power of the Activision is definitely there, but the IP they hold are very significant and can change, and that when you have those kind of IP that can change the dynamics of platform, basically you're gonna affect how Xbox compete with PlayStation and other platforms. That's when your value really get unlocked, right?
Mhm.
So I guess that's one deal that happened you know recently that most people probably know. But that's not a it's a that company Activision exists for a long time. It's not a venture funded things. So the
Mhm.
venture I would say the venture wave of game companies started pretty late, right? I think after I think 2016 or 2017, that's you start to have the most dedicated gaming video interactive entertainment and gaming funds.
Mhm.
So most of the investment, I would say, still in the kind of maturing and the slightly early stage. Um, so so that's the current status of the industry.
Yeah, when we're talking about like the bigger picture, right? So like, I feel like Microsoft acquired Activision and like Take Two acquired Zynga, and I wonder like why do they like? So I guess like why would Microsoft acquire Activision? Like, how does that place into their ecosystem of things? And in China, like since we're both from China, so like I wonder, like, Tencent has been like making a lot of money in the gaming space, and it's obviously one of the biggest tech company in China. And I wonder, what's your thought on like how do game, like I guess like why is it the most like profitable company? Because when you're looking in America, like I guess like the most like the biggest tech company you can think of is probably Google or something. So or Google or Amazon, but it's like very different. I guess, like, it's not very different, but, like, it's very different from I would assume, like, in China, like, Tencent started as, like, the I guess, like, the gaming is, like, one of the strongest, like, their profitability arm,
Right.
as I would imagine. Yeah.
So what's your question again? Sorry, I
So I
understand
wonder, like,
the
yeah. So the general is like, why do big companies such as Microsoft acquire Activision, and what's the economic behind it? What drives the acquisition?
again yeah, I think that's a great question. I think in the end, Tencent's a large number, I think the value, right, the revenue or the profit, a significant part that coming from the games, right? But that's not what makes Tencent unique, right? The reason Tencent unique is they have, WeChat and they have QQ, and they have that
Mhm,
network, right? That they can also push the games to anyone they want and to build a social network between them, right?
mhm,
So I would say so that might make Tencent much more like a platform than a traditional publisher or studio, even though they do make great games and those great games make a lot of money.
mhm,
That I would say from that perspective, you can think about, the game is the way to keep engaging and monetize their audience,
mhm,
the 100 million of audience on the platform, right? And you know on the US side, I would say I don't the reason export the Microsoft, right, stick to the Xbox strategy, that's a little bit different than why they acquire Activision, right? Because from pure gaming industry landscape perspective, right, the big IP and the brand like Activision is very scarce, right? You don't have a lot of,
mhm,
you only have a few of that. So that could affect the like one game like a Call of Duty or one game like a God of War or one top game, can give people user incentives to switch platform or stick to a platform, right?
mhm,
So because when we think of, I think we think about platform as a very abstract way, but the more concrete way for gaming platform is, people will change to a platform for certain games, right?
mhm,
That's very powerful. You know, the platform without games doesn't mean anything, right?
mhm,
I would say Tencent case is also different because the platform is not just for gaming; it's also for daily communication. That's
mhm,
why I would say that's a different. Is quite different. But if you talk about in the Xbox or the PC console space, people will choose PlayStation over Xbox or Xbox over
mhm,
PlayStation, because of one or two big IP and game, and that make it the strategy value of those very significant, right?
mhm,
And um, the in the end, right, it's all about, on the consumer place, all about to be around your player and the users, every hour, every day, right? The engagement, and that's
mhm,
I would say the strategy for the big guys to really try to have all type of a game IP that can satisfy all their player needs, so they don't they can uh, 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 make this players stick to the wall, right? So
mhm.
that's again, so when we say platform is more like a tag, but in the gaming this context, um, it's much more like a mutual beneficial, right? You cannot have a platform without the content and the IP, right?
What's your thought on, like, I guess, like, how do you build a game that's, like, long lasting, or like build a successful IP?
That's a chicken and egg question. So that's something we spend a lot of time thinking about. There's no simple answer because y- you my personal thought right now
Mhm,
is
mhm,
you have to think about the game that's niche enough at the beginning
mhm,
as a new game, right? New IP, niche enough
mhm,
to attract the hardcore audience that's very much, and then go mainstream, right?
mm,
I think I read somewhere, the from a game studio website recently. It's if, I like it a lot. It says a game for everyone is a game for no one.
mm.
that means like you cannot say I want to build a game for 3 billion users, and that doesn't
Mhm.
work, right? But there's a chance for your game to be played by 100 million player users down in you know down the road, but you have to start with a little bit more niche focus. So that's why I think it's very different than a lot of the tech type of more platform type of approach, that you have to think about how you make your platform mainstream, right? Very early. But I think for content perspective, it's actually more powerful to target a more niche, like a hardcore narrow players, and
Mhm.
then hopefully they like it so much that they're gonna start spread it out and like build engagement over time, right? So that's if you talk about more specific more traditional game, that's the way we are thinking about it. But
Mhm.
again, the game is have many right? Many formats, right? Like a Roblox, that's very different than
Mhm.
traditional game, right? If you go
Mhm.
to Roblox to see what's I'll call that's more like interactive experiences, right?
Mhm.
In that case, it's hard to invest in individual studio, because a lot of the top experiences are built by people who are like 15 years old, right?
Mhm.
And you cannot predict the the success of individual experiences, because it's very different than the normal other games we're talking about. So maybe we have investment company that try to, instead of saying we build that from ground up, right? We just acquire the experiences from those 15 years old, and try to build a portfolio and make that bigger, right? So that's again, that's become an interesting strategy for Roblox, and there's a good number of companies trying to do that, right? So it's so in the end, the the strategy for games is very specific to the type of game you're making, right? You cannot make a
Mhm.
very genetic assessment or a genetic strategy.
Mhm. I was about to brought up the Roblox effect because, back in time when when I was spending a lot of time to study the crypto industry, I feel like all the big brands have some sort of like are like collaborating with Roblox. You see like the Gucci of the world or like Nike of the world, like they're all heavily investing into the gaming aspect of things. And I wonder, like you mentioned, like people would acquire experience from like 15 years old builders from Roblox. Does this means like people are buying particular games these like 15 years old people are building?
It's not buying. I think there's the big the I think the big difference um on for Roblox is, if you look, it's more like experiences, right?
Mhm.
So it's less about the content you have there. It's more about what type of special experience that you create, that for those Gen Z or Gen Alpha that love
Mhm.
to hang out there, right? So they spend money a lot of time. They spend money for skins, for customizations.
Mhm.
Uh, in the end, it's about the social experiences. It's quite different than most of other games that you purchase. When you buy things, you buy the content,
Mhm.
right? So so in that sense, that's why Roblox is so powerful. Because it's if you want to build a connection with that generation, right? That's the your gateway, because it's not just the game ads for the hardcore games actually doesn't work that well a lot of times, because you think about, again, I use Call of Duty as example, right? If you want to play Call of Duty, you want to dive very deep into that world, right? And you are not want if there's a ads just pop up, about an insurance company
Mhm.
or about a toothbrush, right? It, even some maybe some maybe luxury goods, right? It has to be really sync with that Call of Duty world, is and which is very difficult, and the so you actually have a very tailored strategy for the hardcore games. For Roblox tech experience is very different, right? Because it's more like the virtual world that those kids live in, right? And so putting eyeball there is actually a very effective way to
Mhm.
communicate with the audience. So I'm very bullish on Roblox, and I think that's still I haven't seen any other platform able to take the significant shares from that generation.
Mhm. What's your thought on, like, how does, like, blockchain plays into this gaming ecosystem?
Oh, that's a very sensitive topic because I think there's a lot of you in the industry. Um, I would say right now we have a lot of good theory about how Web3 blockchain can help gaming, but we haven't seen the proof yet. So
Mhm,
so we are hopeful, right? And see hopefully that's gonna happen, and we have a good amount of investment in various companies that try to tackle this in different ways. But so far, we haven't seen the actual result yet. Means like the game actually benefit from that. There are some companies, that in our portfolio that be successfully try to introduce a game as a web 2 non-web 3 games, and then allow some kind of the economics about the trading of the goods, right? The trading of the in-game goods, and using the blockchain technology, and so that been working reasonably well. But again, even in that sense, it doesn't answer the question yet, why you need blockchain for that, because in-game good trading is not new, right? You have
mhm,
that, since the you know at least early 2000s, right? When we play all those
mhm,
MMOs, we trade goods, using real money all the time, right?
mhm,
It's blockchain could help, but it doesn't really, um, from the solution, from the current situation we see, like we haven't seen why it has to be using blockchain, right?
mhm,
So there's other theory about how open economy can work, how all that can work, but again, it's all good theory, but we have to, haven't seen that out. Um, and so I would say also from the player perspective, there's a big difference between the Western players and Asian players, right? I would say
mhm,
Asian players are probably more um, friendly with, you know, blockchain, because in general in Asia, the games monetization are quite aggressive.
mhm,
Most free to play, pay to win are not a taboo words in Asia, but in the
mhm,
West, because the history, and the people grow up with with the premium single player PC console games, pay to win is seen quite a taboo, right?
mhm,
The way, the more you encourage trading and open economy, sometimes it's not very helpful with your image in the player, especially hardcore players perspective. So again, we on the Web3 side, we do have a good amount of investment, and some in the Western world try to tackle this, and some in Asia try to tackle it from different perspective. But you know, I think we are cautiously optimistic, but
mhm,
again, just haven't seen actual proof. You know, uh,
mhm.
uh, uh, this could work. Yeah.
What's your thought on, like, AI in the gaming space?
Yeah. I I think AI, just like how AI gonna help and change a lot of industry, I think gaming is definitely will be heavily affected by AI.
Mhm,
I think it's from a big picture perspective, it's positive, right? Because the
mhm,
big part of the gaming, I would say there's two way to think about gaming AI, right? And the first way to think about how AI can change game production, right? Because game production is very expensive, right? That's in these days, a lot of games you play even on the mobile, you know, it's easily get 50, $100 million on the production budget, right? Because it's very labor intense, right? A lot of arts, a lot of graphics, a lot of rendering, a lot of technology on the back end.
mhm,
And the big ones, the top ones can easily go to 300, 400 million, even higher. So it's pretty obvious that AI can help that, the production side. And but a lot of people think AI can replace the
mhm,
designers and the game creatives. That I'm not that worried about, because in the
mhm,
end, AI, at least the current implementation of AI, right? The LLM, or the all other models are designed to output average quality output, because in the end it's the average of what you have on the database, right? we can get very
Mhm.
technical, but in the end, it will, the chatbot or all the models, graphic models, video
Mhm.
models will output good, but not the very unique, very top quality, which is very good for
Mhm.
production. But a game, you only play a game because it's exceptional, right? The
Mhm.
core design is exceptional, or the core story exceptional. And if you ask ChatGPT to write a game story for you, they can write, but that story won't be that interesting to play, right? Because in the end, it's the creative that really make a game interesting. But it will make the game production more efficient, right? And
Mhm.
cheaper. And in some cases, for example, give you like now a, a creative, right, a person, like a really creative person in game design probably need a 50 100 people team to actually get the game out, right? And in the new world,
Mhm.
maybe they just need less, right? And that actually make the idea, the real creative idea to pop out even more, right? So I would think that's a generally is good for the game industry. On the other side, right, there's we call the AI native games. So what game experience you can achieve that with now, but we cannot do it without AI, right? I
Mhm.
would say again, that's a lot of theory about it. We have talking to a lot of teams thinking about this. Um, I'm pretty confident that you will see very interesting native AI games gonna coming out in the market next few years. But I think
Mhm.
it's probably very different than what uh, 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 um, what a lot of people think right now. Like the game may not even look like a game, like
Mm.
because I just give you one example. A lot of people used to think that the AI native game is okay. How about you play a RPG game, right? There's a lot of
Mhm.
NPC. NPC, right?
Mhm.
There's basically the non-player characters in the game that gonna talk.
Mhm.
You can talk to. And one example I'll give you is people think, oh, maybe a native AI game is just make those all the NPC uh, AI bot, right? Basically,
Mhm.
instead of have a scripted conversation, you
Mhm.
can, it's just a kind of LLM, a large language model based bot that you can actually make the conversation much more
Mhm.
deep, and you can chat with him forever. But then the it was sounds interesting at the beginning, but then people very quickly realize, if you're a real player or game designer, they will tell you player don't want to talk to NPC forever.
Mhm.
The presence of the NPC in the game is actually give you task, to get to go to, to lead you to the part of the lore and the
Mhm.
world, right? When's the last
Mhm.
time you actually spend 20 minutes with NPC, right? So
Mm.
so I would say that's a lot of people, especially if they're not into the gaming or they will think, oh, maybe that's cool, but it actually doesn't work that well in the end. But maybe the chatting itself, if you can make the chatting with NPC self as part of the game, I mean that's the actual attraction of the game, right? That could change it, right?
Mm.
I just there's an example of a very indie team. I think did the experience that it's like escaping a room, right?
Mhm.
You have to convince the gatekeeper to let you out, and you basically you think about a lot of on the Twitter, on X right now, people just go to screenshot how do you trick ChatGPT to do something that they don't supposed to do, right?
Mhm.
And that game design make that it actually become part of it become that of the game itself, that you need to the goal of the AI bot is to not let you out. You have to trick him, right, to let you out, right? So
Mhm.
that's an interesting design, because that's you cannot do that before, because you can, it's very hard to figure out all the conversation, all the scenarios that you can trick a pre-scripted NPC, and it's not probably not that fun. Again, so that's one example. I think we'll see more, like people are very talented, in the industry, people will figure out, but maybe that type of game experience are very different than what people would today usually think about as a game, and which is again that's a, I don't know, that's a bad thing, right? I would say 20 or 15 years ago, before iPhone out, nobody would imagine, you know, the biggest game in the world, right, is the game you play on the phone, like the Honor of King, or Genshin Impact, or Call of Duty Mobile, right? And then people won't imagine that, because before the platform coming out, you just don't have that. And I think for AI, if you think about AI as a productivity tool, it's already happening. If you think about AI as a new way to present or incorporate incorporate game, if you use AI as a new platform or even like a new AI as a new core technology to make games, I would say that's a long way to go, and we'll see more interesting things coming out there.
For sure. I wonder, I guess if you're angel investing today in the gaming space, what do you see as the opportunity?
I would say definitely uh, uh, the AI native game. If you talk about small check, small investment, I think that's interesting because that could get really viral, right?
Mhm,
And get a lot of attention and can monetize really well, right?
mhm,
That's and Or any type of platform opportunities, but again, that's very rare, very difficult. But
mhm,
that will again, that's still if you talk about angel investing, you want the leverage, right?
mhm,
You want the
mhm,
small check that can generate the most equity value. So that's the part of you want to get in. But that's very hard the chance of getting the right one is very low, right? So
mhm,
that's that's also that fits in the power law. Um, but so I wouldn't recommend angel investor to get into the more traditional game investment because
mhm,
that's a very capital intensive, and you need to structure the capital the right way, the deal right way, and you probably need a significant amount of capital to do that.
mm. I wonder, like, when you are thinking about basically the three subject that you guys invest in, like the content, the social commerce, and then the technology, what's your strategy, or like, what are some unique insights that you guys have that to make the investing strategy just like more tailored towards
Yeah.
what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I would say because I spend more time in the content and technology side.
Mhm,
So I'll leave social commerce a little bit, but that's handled by my other partners. I would say content. If you talk about again, I mentioned a little bit about the new interesting type of AI native games, right? But if you talk about traditional games, I would say that the insight we have today is you really have to think about um, how to how you realize your return, right? How to structure the deal that you know you have. You, you, if the game works, that you need to have that return sooner than later, right? Um, so I would say the content investment is you can talk all day about how to choose the right game or game makers that we have a lot of insight, but I don't want to go too deep that. But in general, I think the bigger question is how to invest and
mhm,
what's the structure that the investing makes sense for that type of for content, right? Um, and I can say that we don't think the pure traditional equity is the right way. Um, you know, like we have done bunch of that. I think that's gonna work, but to really scale that, I think you probably need to more like hybrid type of investment type of the deal structure.
mhm,
On the technology side, I think our approach is quite unique. I think you have to think about if you want to invest technology that only serve gaming industry, I think it's tough, right? It's very challenging. Um, there's we can go deep there, but there's a lot of reason for that. I would say that probably when you think about technology, you think about how to leverage the data that in the games. Game is probably the media or the content generate most data, right? Because it's direct
mhm,
consumer is interactive, and how to leverage those data that you can build your technology product that for a lot of more industry sectors, right? So that's I think that's I think the gaming is probably one of the few industry has like a large, very very large number of data, right? And
mhm,
that data is very like I'm pretty certain that if I actually have the data of your gameplay, I can get a lot of insight from you. Actually know who you
mhm,
are, right? And so that
mhm,
data are very valuable, right? So that's one way. And another way is think about what type of a technology can enable the next generation experience, right? Which again, I guess Vision Pro released a couple weeks ago. Um, you know,
mhm,
I'm personally I'm bullish in this in that space, but it's about the timing, right? It's about when that's
Mhm.
gonna become mainstream. That if that become mainstream, that's not a mobile, right? And that's gonna add another 100 billion or even more to this industry. But the key thing is, and what technology company that could drive that transformative trend, and that's why we are one of the few game fund that actually invest in deep tech as well, right? If I invest in the semiconductor companies and consider sensors and other things that actually could drive the next generation of experiences, right? So that's very
Mm,
valuable because if you know NVIDIA, right? Of course, now I think it's an AI company now, but there's no NVIDIA without video game, right? Because
mm,
all the GPUs, that's so the actually content can drive a lot of technology and innovation, in the throughout the chain. So I think that's the two part that we are spending all the time on. It's how to leverage the game industry data or customer base to really build a product for all the industry. Or is the what's kind of technology can really drive the next generation of experiences.
mm. You mentioned like Vision Pro. So how do you envision that shapes how people play games? Because I don't personally see it as like a productivity tool. I mean, I do think it's like a immersion experience that definitely gonna change how people play games, but I think it's very different from like a mobile experience because mobile, unlike on the phone, you can do all kind of things. You can like be productive, like responding to email or something, or you can research a restaurant or like order something, order Uber to go somewhere. But like for Vision Pro or any type of like consumer hardware, what are the opportunity that you are seeing in there?
Yeah, I would say the first, I think if Vision Pro cannot achieve a baseline of productivity, or I
Mhm,
would say daily communication, then I don't think it's gonna work.
mm,
So I haven't got mine yet. I mean, still shipping. But I think the hope, if you look at
mhm,
the reason I was very I have a huge very big hope of Vision Pro or to the industry is I believe Apple target the right use case is actually make that more like a productivity and daily communication tool versus an entertainment device, right? Because i- i- the reason iPhone mobile games are so massive is not
mhm,
because iPhone is the best best device to play video games. It's because you have it with you all the time, right?
mhm,
You can play the game everywhere, anytime, anywhere, anytime you want, right? So
mm,
that's why mobile game is important. And the game, and then the developers, the genius figure out how to make the game experience on mobile that appealing, right? And also the in-app purchase, the gacha, all those things, helps, right? The social things helps. So that's the order it comes. First you need to have a mainstream device, and then the game can really be the one to monetize the best in that device. So that I think that apply to the Vision Pro again. So if
mm,
Vision Pro cannot achieve a baseline of productivity or data communication, I don't think game work gonna work there because
mm,
nobody gonna nobody gonna wear a device every day to play games, right?
mm,
Even as a game investor, I'm very I'm very I understand the limitation of games, right? Entertainment is never a driver of a mainstream consumer device, right? So
mm,
it can help a lot, and it can probably the best way to monetize it, but it's not gonna be the main driver. So the Vision Pro has to be, I don't know exactly what's the use case for that, but either it's the FaceTime, working, or hopefully it's the productivity, right? That if most of the Vision Pro users gonna bring Vision Pro when they travel, when they move from here, locations, then the
mhm,
game will work well, right?
mm,
So if you talk about what type of game can work on Vision Pro, the answer is I don't know, right? Just like how I talk about the mobile and native AI is I'm not if I'm the genius to keep that game like that,
mhm,
I won't
mhm,
I won't stay in the VC job. But the
mm,
bad is to really hopefully the platform will figure out, the device gonna figure out the how to make sure people wear it, and use it daily basis. And that I'm very, very certain that's gonna be a very talented developers, game designers to figure out how to make the
Mm.
best experience of that.
Mm. You mentioned like so basically earlier we chat about the game publisher and then the uh developer and like the content game studio. So I wonder like in a gaming studio, what are the major component in terms of talent? Are they like right now we also talk about AI native games. Like is there a lot of AI talent that join the gaming space? I guess like how do they all work together? What is like the product that people create through like a game studio?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I would say there are the game designers, right, to
Mhm,
design the logic and the framework of the game, and there are
mhm,
the artists who create the arts, graphics, images of the game. And there's engineer, right, to actually put it together, because unlike a lot of other entertainment, right, this is actual software. Every game is a piece of
mhm.
software, right?
Mhm,
It doesn't have the software revenue
mhm,
profile, but it actually is from code base actual software.
mhm,
So I would say the this kind of the three main force, right,
mhm,
to you need to design a game, you need to that's the thing. So I would say
mhm,
that because average game studio in that sense is also a technology company. From
mhm,
all the game studio have a significant number of engineers, right?
mhm,
So they most of them probably are already using AI a lot
mhm,
more than the other industry, because
mhm,
engineer, the best the thing they like most is try new technologies, right?
mhm,
And because the the foundation models are getting better every day, and
mhm,
they are very it's very easy for them to put together a wrapper or something to get that into the workflow
mhm,
and try different things. So we already see that
mhm,
happening, right? Most of the
mhm,
I would say I can guarantee you that the most of the mid-size above studios are already using AI, right,
mhm.
in various components. um so that's did that answer your question?
Yeah, and also like I guess like how so we see so many like AI apps that are in the like movie space or basically we're talking about like runway ML or like Pika. So I wonder like do you think actual game studio would use these things or are they more for like entertainment purposes for like the amateurs?
I think that so far we haven't seen the game studio adopting third-party tools like standardized software for that, because they're usually their workflow
Mhm,
are quite different.
mhm,
And like I said, um, the the they you have to understand how to use the component of AI for the pipeline,
mhm,
for the production pipeline, because the biggest requirement of a game is actual control. It's like you have to precisely the game designer give you this is the logic I need, and the artist said this is intentional. I want to put a trash can here in
mhm,
this shape because there's a
mhm,
purpose for that, and
mhm,
the precision is very important. So it's very
mhm,
hard to use a generic tool to do something and replace the actual production. You can use that for ideation, right? You want to
mhm,
you want to do some concept or something, that's probably fine. But for the production, it actually you need a more control and position. So that's why a lot of studio choose to basically use build the tools based on the foundation model directly and have the right position precision they need and the control they need to do
mhm.
it. So that's what we see now.
Totally. I wonder, I want to be mindful of the time. So can we like, I have two more questions in that like sector. So I wonder
Yeah,
if
I
you,
think that's okay.
okay. So one of the question is like, how is IP being sold? So like, essentially like Microsoft acquire Activision for that particular IP, not particular, but like I guess like overall the big picture is like they acquired it for the Call of Duty IP. So I wonder like how is IP being monetized throughout the space?
So the best way to monetize IP is through games. So that's
Mhm.
a little bit. That's a very good question. Or a lot of people ask that. I would say so far,
Mhm.
game itself is the best way to monetize IP, right?
Mhm.
So when you think about the game IP, they may license to a movie, or they do TV, or they do this and that, or do toy, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times the purpose are to increase the awareness and the stickiness of the fan base of the IP, not actually to
Mhm.
make a significant revenue and profit, because game itself can be really, really, really profitable,
Mhm.
right? And it's very and the revenue scale can be very big, right?
Mhm.
So I wouldn't say there's no way to monetize IP outside games. There's definitely a way, right? You see a lot of game IP now become right, movie and TV and in other spaces, but also cross. You can license your game IP to another game as
Mhm.
well. Um, but still, the one of the biggest profit, revenue profit driver of a Call of Duty IP is Call of Duty Mobile, right? It's
Mm.
basically I use the IP in a mobile game that can target even more audience and monetize even better. Um, so that's the because we haven't talked about the premium versus live service in the previous conversation. So basically, yeah, you can the mobile live service games have a more sticky revenue and more long term kind of more like a software, right, type of recurring revenue stream. So that's has been a big revenue and a profit driver of a Call of Duty IP. So you can
Mm.
so maybe go back to that. There's a different, maybe the best way to monetize a game IP is still games, but that it could be a different type of game, right? It can be a
Mm.
more, you can have a premium games like a PC console game that create IP that way, and then you monetize by some other type of game.
So basically, oh, I didn't even know that you you can monetize it toys by like on the PC as well as on the mobile. So basically,
Yeah, you
people
have a
have
lot
to.
of toys. If you go to, a good example is Genshin Impact, right? If you go to
Mhm.
Tokyo, right? If you go to Akiba, right? There's so many toys and and things about a set those things for Genshin Impact. But again, if you ask me how, right, they are not telling you that's good revenue, but main purpose of that make make their satisfy their fans, right? The fan want this. The fan wants to have their Genshin Impact, characters, in their house, right? Wear it. So add
Mhm.
the stickiness of the IP. But if you talk about the best way to monetize the Genshin Impact IP is the game because the game make
Mhm.
a billion dollar of revenue. Just a number
What?
that a lot of people in the audience may not know that the Mihayo, the Genshin Impact, one company, one game profit is combination of a lot of AAA publishers in the West combined. So that's
Mm.
how powerful those type of revenue profit is.
What is the revenue made up of? Is that like just people I pay X amount of dollar to play the game, and then there's I know there's a skin in the game, and there is like basically you buy a certain like tool or whatever, so people are paying for the extra things. And you also mentioned like play like pay to win. So like how like what are the major revenue factor within the game?
That's probably should be the first stuff to talk about for this interview. But it's good that you asked this in the end. Historically, right? Most of games before mobile and before especially in the West, are premium games. Is you pay for access, right? You pay
Mm.
to play the game. Um, and in the very early day in Asia, it changed because I think the piracy is a big issue at the time. If you pirate game that you don't pay, right? And
Mhm.
part of Asia, piracy is very common.
Mhm.
And then people realize, okay, I can charge you a subscription to play a game. Means I charge you a monthly fee or whatever to play a game. So you cannot pirate that because it's internet is network required, right? Verification. But then people in the again in the Asia realize, okay, that people who are willing to spend $10, $20 a month on the game is limited. But how about I make that free? Then
Mhm.
a lot more people can play, But then you just need some people who only pay a lot more than others to make the monetization works, right? So if you think about from a supply demand um, curve, that the traditional premium games, it's a flat curve, means a lot of demand supplies are captured by the consumer, because some
Mm,
I play I spend $60 for this game. Some people play 1 hour, some people play
mhm,
100 and 500 hours, right? But
mhm,
they pay the same price. But if you try a free to play, it's very different. Then it actually add the elasticity of the supply demand, that there are gonna be people who want to pay $10,000, right? And that's people willing to pay like a zero, but all of them can enjoy. But the key thing here is the reason a lot of people willing to pay $10,000 is because there are a lot of people paying zero, so they feel better in the game, right? So
mm,
that's how. So a lot of things that we call pay to win, right? Pay to win is like if you pay more, you have a more advantage in the games, right? And
mhm,
that's a big phenomenon in Asia. In the West, a lot of games try that, and then some are better than others, but in general there's a big um, a culture issue. I say people in general, especially the core player, hate that, and that's in mobile as well, right? A lot of mobile is it's not pay to win other players, but pay to win make your game easier, right? A lot of like match 3
mhm,
game or something, you buy some items, right? You can make your game easier. That's I would say that's a light version of pay to win. um, and for some other games like Genshin, right, is pay to buy characters, right? And that's I wouldn't say that's pay to win, but some people just love the characters more than others, right? And they
mm,
will, because the way, that's why the IP in those type of games is very important, because in the end it's not just about I have these characters that I can uh, play the game more efficiently. That's part of the thing, but it's also I love this character, right? I love
mm,
this character that I want to own her or him. Um,
mm,
and that's big part of, and then you can put skin on it, and there's a social element to show off, right? So in the end, I would say the reason a lot of game become more VC investable in the recent decade is because the live service, which means like is more instead of like upfront purchase price, right? You have a more long-term process, and you can, if you do that, you will see a big element metrics for live service game is LTV over CAC, right? So that's software metrics, because you can
mhm,
calculate how much you need to spend to acquire a player, and then you can see what's the lifetime value of that player throughout the time, right? And you just
mhm,
optimize that, you can get to pretty good revenue base. So that's the I would say the different motivation and the monetization method.
mm. Oh, I want to ask one last question, but it's kind of like with everything mixed in the end. So, who are playing these games, and why are they playing? And then, who are the biggest spender, and then why do they spend that much?
Again, very good question, but the answer gonna be very generic, because I in the current industry, right, or in 2024, majority of the people on the earth play games, right?
Mhm,
And they play games for different reason, and they play for different games. Um, I, there's no simple answer to that. But I think you go back to my last answer to the last question. You know, if you talk about the big spenders in the games, right? The biggest spender in the games is probably those industry called whale that
mhm,
want to dominate in certain games, and it's very it's a lot of people find it's crazy, but there are people spending 10, 50,000, $100,000 or even more in one game, right? And like again, you may not understand why that, but I just usually my answer is okay. Look at why someone would want to spend $10,000 for a special license plate, or special phone numbers or special status that can show off, right? That's just part of the human social nature, right? So that's, I would say, that's part of the one part of the culture, and the others, the majority, mainly the main consumer, especially with PC console, are still content buyer, so they want to buy the game they want to play, and they consume those content. And there's a lot of free rider, right? I don't say it in a bad way, because means like they play games that they don't pay. But again, if you don't pay, then you are probably the product. So
Mhm.
if you don't pay, then either they monetize by ads, means you have to see ads, right? Engagement, or the existence of your play is to benefit those other big spenders, because it's create that social dynamics that will make other people pay more.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different. So it's industry is getting very complicated, very deep now, and that's why it's exciting, right? Because every day people are finding out new way to monetize, new way to create different type of a structure, and how to monetize and how to increase games. But I'm very confident that this gonna in general this trend gonna continue. And if you look at another 20 years, then even the people in the 50s and 60s are gonna be
Mhm.
a hardcore player and grow up with games. And the new
Mhm.
people, the younger generation, definitely grow up with games. So you're gonna have in I would say in 10, 20 years, you have the full spectrum of population that growing up with video games, right? In various
Mhm.
formats, and that's gonna create a lot of great investment opportunities for sure.
Mm. On that note, anyway, I want to say hi to the audience. One of the audience said players spend in games to feel good. Anyway, so we have a one last minute fire round for you. So, first question is, what's your favorite book slash what's your favorite content diet?
Book or games? That's
Whatever is your content diet
right now
right now.
or
Yeah,
yeah. I would say just I would say the books, maybe just for the last couple of years. I my favorite book is still Three Body
three body,
Problems. Yeah, I
three
think
body
that's
problem.
a fantastic uh 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 you know uh uh uh, uh you know book about, you probably know this, sci-fi. But I think the reason, again, I'm very very interested is i- it's a rare sci-fi that um it's not talking about some Asian only issue or Asian only fantasy words, right? Compared to a lot of
Mhm.
Asian specific books. This is a kind of a story for everyone in the world, but only Asian can write that, because there's a deep philosophical question, and logic in the book that are rooted by the Asian culture and Asian history, right, or Chinese history.
Mhm.
So if you talk about analogy on analogy on the games, it's same. I want to find the people, if I want to invest in an Asian studio, for example, I want to find they are creating a game for the global audience, right? Not just for Asian audience, but the game is very unique because the background of the game makers, because the way they grew up, the
Mm.
society they are living in. I think that will make it very interesting and refreshing.
Mm. What's your favorite game?
Oh my God, that's a tough question. But I would say on the franchise side, I think it's a historical reason, but the franchise side, my favorite game is franchise is Final Fantasy. It's
Mm.
I grew up with that. I uh, um, you know I spend a lot of time in very different installment of the franchise, and even for the MMO version of FF14, I have my own social circle there. So it's
Mm.
quite unique. So that's the power of the IP. I don't even care what the next Final Fantasy game is, but I'm gonna buy it.
Mm.
It's very powerful.
What's your who made the biggest impact in your career?
I won't answer that question. I think I have a few people to thank to. I would say the I cannot pick one, but I would say the the two or three bosses that I work for in the last couple jobs of the other ones, right? For different
Mm.
reasons, but in the end, on finance and investing, um, is a apprentice job, right? It's you learn from other people. You don't learn from books. Um, so I would say the mentor and the people who bring me to this industry, there's a few of them are all like extremely helpful and useful to my career. But again, I will say the person that actually I benefit most is my wife, right? Because
Mm,
given the career, I already mentioned like a 10 conference to you in the beginning,
mm,
and
mm,
this is a very global business and a lot of travel, a lot of and so support from family is very important.
mm. Who will you invite to your dinner party?
I love to bring people from like the top creative people with the top technology people together.
Mm,
Like I actually found that's usually very fascinating. Like
mm,
if you only put some creative people together, sometimes they gonna go the too creative side. But if you put about creative people and also technology people together, that sometimes you got a very interesting conversation that gonna change how you think about the world. So I would say that's generally my favorite things. To bring like a few of the creative side and gaming side, and a few maybe even non-relevant, the deep tech or engineers, to a dinner table and have a very very good conversation.
mm. Where can we find you outside of work? This is the last question.
Outside work, it does sound a virtual world. Come on, that's my this is my job, and you can find me, all type of virtual worlds, MMOs and the games I'm playing. That's probably the best place to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on to Venture with Grace today.
All right, thanks, Grace. Yep, have a good rest of the day.